Today, I'm joined by the incredible Vicki Hodges, a passionate advocate and leading voice in the endometriosis space, as well as the founder of Pausefully. Vicki is on a mission to challenge the stigma, inequalities, and medical gaslighting that so many with endometriosis face. She empowers others to advocate for their needs in a world where the condition is too often minimised or simply dismissed. Through her one-to-one and group counselling, she helps those affected to navigate the emotional and mental challenges that come with it. I also share around my diagnosis with PCOS last year and the challenges I'm leaning into, so we can lead change and break the noise to inspire others to lead the way and help more people feel truly seen, heard and understood. This is really a great conversation about health, advocacy and the power of being your own best champion. Let's get into it. Vicki, welcome to Success on Your Terms. Really excited to have the conversation with you today. I was just saying a minute ago how I always see your stuff on LinkedIn. I was like, this is a no-brainer conversation to have and talk about what you're going to be sharing. So let's kick off. I always ask, or I tend to ask, share about yourself, what you do, and it's like completely random.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I give a space to people that are suffering with endometriosis. So specifically those that are going through endometriosis and fertility issues. There's not a lot of support for the mental health side of things. It's mainly geared, if at all, which I'm sure I'll get into the physical. So I wanted that space for people to come, a coaching and I'm a training counsellor as well, to help people offload, to rant, to have somewhere to open up about the difficulties they're feeling, some of the emotions that are coming up during this time for them, and try and process them. Because there's not much of that that's offered to people through endometriosis.
Yeah, we will come on to that. It's so important. Just share your one thing random, just because it's always good to see where the conversation takes on this one.
Okay, one thing random about me?
Or anything.
Oh, okay. Oh gosh, I was on TV last year. I went on the BBC. So yeah, that was my first TV debut. Talk about endometriosis. So I was, I feel really proud, and it was a bit of a surprise, but I was so glad that I was there to be able to speak to a huge audience on, BBC Breakfast about endometriosis and raise that awareness. So yeah, that's my
I love that. It's perfect. Perfectly, because I have put you on the spot there. But what I always love about it is it's often something that's what I would say is more the like sometimes our secondary messaging or the thing that gets us a bit more about us. And I think what definitely comes across instantly anyway is just how passionate you are about what you do. And I remember seeing you share that on LinkedIn again. And that's important stuff, like following things that we care about and then getting into more conversations about things like this as well. And like as you're doing, absolutely raising awareness about things that are so important. Hence, when you applied for the podcast, I was like, was a no-brainer, because I haven't been diagnosed or had that. I have been diagnosed with PCOS, but I'm very passionate about mental health. I'm very passionate about my health and fitness, which is again what I talk about a lot within my messaging with business, because it is so important. And I can only, I guess, where I can have empathy is going down the PCOS side of things now, is there is just not much help at all. And I've had to privately go out and invest in somebody and get the right help and test stuff and talk with my fiance Tom about stuff, which is it's different challenges, because and then that like, you can't just show up with a perfect smile on and think you can rock up into business or go into work, because those things are playing a part. And it's really I learned that many years ago of corporate, that you can't, it's not like solo things. Life and business aren't separate. They do whatever, I believe they come together, and I know not everybody does with that, but you can't, you want that space, as you said, sometimes to just rant and get clarity. It's so important.
And you can't always switch off, and nor should you want to switch off
from
that. And I never wanted to be defined by endometriosis. And I tell that to others, you are not the condition itself, but it does take over your whole life, and be that your personal life or your professional life as well. So it really is hard to break that, put a smile on your face, like you say, and go into work and pretend it's not happening. So that's why we need that awareness, allyship, advocacy to help people throughout their whole life.
So let's break it down because we'll stay clear of the PCOS because these are huge topics and need focus on all of them individually ourselves, and they need
Yeah.
clarity is important. What for breaking it down completely, again, no stupid questions about what is endometriosis, or and how does, like, just tell us more about it. How do you know if you have it, or what are symptoms and everything? Let's just understand, because there may be people think like have no awareness of it.
Yeah, I mean, March is Endometriosis Awareness Month, so so much more has been done, but it's like I don't want it to just stop, 1 month a year. It's like we should be constantly talking about this, a household name. And so, what endometriosis actually is it's classified as a menstrual health condition, but really it's a whole body condition. So, from the time that you start your periods, you may see symptoms if you have endometriosis. So it's not like it progresses, or you get it much later on in life. You can have it from teen years, or you can progress, or you can have it later on in life. So the basics of it is that the cells similar to that of the ones that line the womb grow outside of the womb. So what some of the symptoms are is heavy bleeding.
Yeah.
It can be cramps, menstrual cramps that are so severe they impact the quality of your life.
Mhm.
It can be pain after sex, bleeding after sex. It can be something called endobelly, which is inflammation where you swell up, and you can look pregnant. It can be pain on passing bowel movements, or going for a wee can be painful. There's lots and lots of symptoms, but they can cross over to other illnesses as well. So quite often it is hard for somebody themselves to go, okay, I'm piecing all these dots together and this is what it is. If you've never heard of endometriosis, you're not going to be able to do that. And that's why it's so important when we go to a GP that they do that for us. But we know that just does not happen. So we're going to our GPs and we're going, well, I've got pain after sex, and they'll send you to a sexual health clinic maybe to investigate that. Or you can say, I've got pain on a bowel movement, and they'll send you, IBS tests and things. So really, it's about, I would say, keeping a diary and seeing what symptoms are coming up for you. But not everybody has all those symptoms. Some people don't have any symptoms. There's different stages. So you can go stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 has been the least severe, 4 the most. But some people with stage 1 are in incredible pain, even though they don't have many adhesions and lesions. It's really painful, impacts their life. And some people can be stage 4, and it can be all over different organs. For me, it was on my bowel and bladder. My ovaries were stuck together and stuck to my uterus. Everything was kind of frozen, and they say, and it was just solid mass of webs and growth within me. But I wasn't in huge amounts of pain, but I was in pain for the level of what was going on inside me. So again, it's about believing women, and that doctor going to the doctors and saying, I think this could be endometriosis. We really need to create that awareness piece so women can go in and advocate for themselves and actually ask the question to their GP, could this be endometriosis?
Yeah. Is there a common symptom that probably sparks for most women to think, that could be what I've got, or that could be, to lead them down this road of understanding, like, is this something that they have?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it can be similar to, like you say, PCOS, other fibroids, other menstrual conditions. But I think on the whole, if you've got some of the symptoms, it's best to raise those, and then they can investigate and find out what it is.
Yeah.
So I think the most common thing that I hear, and for me and for people I speak to, is the heavy menstrual bleeding and the pain. Are the two things, and we're taught to ignore those things. We grow up and it's like, well, that's just part of having a period, is going through that pain and heavy bleeding. We don't always know what heavy menstrual bleed is,
Right, of course.
Yeah, and until social media came along and we're educated on, actually, this is how many mils per month you should lose, people weren't really aware of, they just thought well, their mums had had heavy bleeds and they were told from them, or you go to the GP and they say, well, that's part of being a woman. So you kind of just put up with. So I would say, yes, it's really key to understand what actually is a normal period, a normal amount of blood loss, a normal amount of, well, no pain really is a normal amount, but you know, if it's affecting the quality of your life, you need to be asking your GP for help.
And where I'm really passionate about these conversations, because I'm very aware that obviously it's got very little to what I do in terms of business actually, but that's the difference, that like it's always beyond just the business stuff, because you're saying how much it does impact. And for me, just as an approach that would be quite similar to the things you're saying there around the doctors and stuff, like I don't have a lot of the symptoms of PCOS. I went and realistically just have irregular periods and a few other things. And then, of course, getting to age of 37, there's a huge amount of pressure now with the topic of menopause and everything. So when you go to people and say, oh, my period's off, it's this or that, it's like, oh, the menopause, could be the menopause. So that's probably not what I want to hear at 37 when we don't, you know, we've had the conversation, Tom and I, of what we share and don't share, but like we're also open to the fact it like this, it leads away from more conversations to normalize these things as well and help people, and that's our genuine intent. But we don't want kids for a year or so. So, but there is a reality to that. Well, what can we do? And I'm always about this with business and life, what's within my control, because I do believe that there is a lot more as well. And so I went to the doctors and it was oh, you got PCOS. And it's like, what, from one symptom, it could be that type of thing. But that to somebody's like, that's major in itself. And there was some things that just weren't settling with me. And then I kept going back for things, and it would always the result would be blood test, blood test, blood test. And I was like, this again, this isn't enough for me. And not that I don't trust it, but I kind of don't trust some of these things. So I was like, try something else. So then went to a health fitness thing actually, and somebody was talking around health and again menstruation, cycle, and women and different things, and she specializes in PCOS, and that kind of got me. I was like, oh, I wonder. So I had time with her, and then we've looked more at now fertility. It's led us down that route, which has been fascinating. And then back to things like at the moment of like coming off the pill, where the doctor said no, don't come off the pill, and actually that's really eased stuff for me, and then supplements and different things and trialing and testing. But the hardest part with all of that comes back to, as we said at the start, the mindset. And if you don't have the right people to talk to around you, you just 10 times everything in your head and you can't have that clarity. And it is stressful. It is, like you said, like it's really when you've got something, or I've noticed there's massive periods of the month, or there was, like I'm easing it now by focusing on this, but I'd wake up knackered and was massive. And I was like, I've never been like this. I've always jumped up, wanted to get to the gym, and I'm getting older, but I was like, there's not substantial things that have changed. Why do I feel this way and things? And it's taking that step by step as well. And as you say, like I log everything now. I have the smart ring, human ring now, which I've got recently, which is really useful. I'm monitoring more downtime, I'm getting more sleep for recovery, and that impacts then again how I energetically show up at work. So all of these steps and things are coming from awareness and more conversations to get a better understanding and education on stuff that we're pretty useless at education wise in our younger years, or actually even when I was in corporate, we had a glossy lovely process and policy, but who did it wasn't always, you know, it looked good.
Who knows about it? You know, it's okay having that policy, but actually, is it just words on a piece of paper, you know, and no one actually knows, or is it actually implemented? Yeah.
And that's the thing, because it's great to have something, but if people then therefore don't understand who are in your team or managing those things, and you know, it doesn't, that's again a stressful situation that doesn't help anybody. So having things like you're sharing here and support to go to, I guess the point is what's been made is that you have to do those steps on your own. Actually, though, you know, it's out there, but you've got to do a bit of the groundwork to find the right things as well. But there are people out there like we're sharing today that can help open those doors.
And it's music to my ears that you said, you know, you get told have a blood test, and actually you wanted to figure things out, so you started that research yourself and doing things, because the whole reason I called the business Pausefully is that we're on that kind of conveyor belt of life, of like been busy with our families or friends, social life, work, and if we have a problem come up, we tend to maybe ignore it a little bit and not trust our intuition with what's happening. And then you may go to the doctor, get dismissed, have a blood test, it comes back normal, go for a scan, comes back normal. And and you ignore it and ignore it, and you push down that intuition and you don't look into it. So many people don't take the step to actually do anything. And my whole thing is, take that pause, like stop listening to people who say they're experts, but you question that they're saying it's normal, but actually you really do know that something's wrong, even though the test results have come back normal. Ask for that second opinion. It's about tuning into what you feel is going on in your body, what's not quite right, and you keeping that diary, it allows you then to see a pattern that's happening. And we're so disconnected from ourselves mentally and even physically, and what's happening with ourselves. So yeah, I think it's really key that we actually pay attention, and the awareness is definitely part of that. The education is part of that, because then you know what to look out for, you know what is normal, what's not. But the advocacy as well, sometimes we don't know where to head and what helps is out there. So the awareness is definitely key, and people there to help you advocate for yourselves, because it can be a lonely and scary place, when you're navigating it alone.
Yeah. Where are some of what are some of the things, like, I am massive on like getting to the gym, staying healthy, going for my runs, eating well is an important one to me. I think nutrition is absolutely immense in so
Yeah.
many things. What are some of the practical things that people can do right now or to get started on that, understanding more about this?
So it's completely individual. So I am all for coexisting with a pharmaceutical approach if you want to, and a holistic approach, whatever works for you. You know, I say there definitely is a place if you're in pain and you're struggling, for going to get help and, going on certain pills and medical interactions, surgery, whatever it is. But that shouldn't be kind of the only thing that we focus on for endometriosis. It should be the mental health side of things as well. So it's around the more holistic things. It's about eating well. It's about stretching our bodies, doing mindfulness, journaling, cutting down on foods that trigger our symptoms. Again, it's that recognizing what's going on for us, and everybody's individual with that. So not one thing fits for absolutely everybody with endometriosis or those struggling with their fertility. So I would say do what works for you. Try something, give it time, and then note down, keep a diary, or just notice in yourself how you're feeling when you're doing that, and but give it time to see the effects it's having.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because then that can even put people off kind of the whole give it time, but you have to. It has to be patience. It's like business, like anything, patience and consistency.
Yeah.
And staying committed to it, that like these things, give them that time and space as well. But it is a curiosity to it, like you're doing it for like a better life, to feel better, and then again to help others, because the more you know about it, the more like the better conversations you get in around stuff to spread the message more, which is so important. And I think trusting yourself with some things that, I'm not saying here that experts aren't experts in things, but like you said, the ability to trust yourself with how you know your body is, what works for you, because that's the important part. And sometimes it can be about doing more things, maybe you have to do, or actually, like you said, sometimes it's less things. I know, like at weekends, I like going full in my week, and then the weekend's kind of my downtime, recovery, switch off, and that's like a non-negotiable that I have to have in order to be my best. But if I'm that person that believes that if you're not your best, you can't be your best for others. It's that oxygen mask analogy.
Yeah.
There's no draining myself to the point where I'm showing up just trying to be everything to everybody, because that's absolutely the polar opposite.
Yeah, and it can be frustrating, with endometriosis. You can have major fatigue. It's a whole body inflammation, which will just tire you out. I've had chunks of my, time when my kids have been growing up that, I've been on the sofa asleep, and I just can't literally drag my body off the sofa to get dressed even. And it's frustrating, but you do learn, like you say, to give yourself time and not get to that burnout. Where you rest regularly, it happens less then, because you're looking after your body and listening to what it needs. Yeah.
You're really passionate about this, and I can tell, and I know, and it's consistent in like what I see you put out and share around what you do and how you help people and your messaging. Where is that kind of that purpose, that passion, that drive come from for this?
Unfortunately, personal lived experience. Yeah. So I started my periods when I was 13, and it took a long journey of having symptoms, which I didn't know back then were endometriosis, the heavy bleeding, the severe menstrual cramps, impacted my life, my career, and my relationships, and constantly going to the doctors and them going, no, everything's normal. And I think what you said back then about like medical professionals, yes, they are, people to go to and have these conversations. However, it's choosing the right medical professional. So
Yeah.
I was going to a general GP, and they don't have to be trained in endometriosis, so they're not always going to ask the right questions.
Sure.
So it's about signposting yourself to a specialist in menstrual health, or asking, has your GP got someone in women's health specialist? So yeah, for me, I would spend most of my teen years, 20s, trying for a baby, reach that point where I couldn't get pregnant. And again, they were saying, it's unexplained infertility. And I was like, all this is happening with my menstrual health. Like, there must be some link here. Nobody joined the dots for me. And then I started doing more research myself and going, okay, I think I have endometriosis. I don't need somebody else to tell me this. I'm going to treat my body like it is and do things for myself. And yeah, it was only when I was going into perimenopause and symptoms were actually getting worse for me, because of the hormone fluctuations and everything. And COVID hit, and I was told just that, at age 40, actually, you do have endometriosis finally. And surgery was then delayed because of that. And the barriers that I was coming up against, the same conversations. So I started talking to a lot of other people, and the same thing. We were all sharing the same experiences and the same stories. It was like just everybody was saying pretty much exactly the same thing. And I just thought, something has to be done about this. We can't carry on. It's almost 30 years later from when I started symptoms, and nothing has changed in the world. Like, what is going wrong where women are getting ignored? And endometriosis affects 1 in 10 women, and that is the ones that are diagnosed. So probably a lot more. So yeah, that is where my passion comes from, my own lived experience. But then since that, speaking to so many others that are in exactly the same boat. And I feel fortunate enough that I could empower myself, and I could start advocating for myself, standing up for myself and asking these questions. But that's because I'd done a lot of the work to educate myself and raise the awareness and tune into what was going on for me. Some people don't have that, they're not aware, they don't have the confidence to go into their GP and say, could it be this? So yeah, I wanted to help women have that skill to empower themselves, to break some of these stigmas that are around, talking about bleeding and menstrual health, to help. Really, I mean, the amount of funding that goes into women's health, and especially menstrual health, is so low. So if I can do whatever I can to make systematic change as well, so not just change to an individual level, change, to a society, that is where, like you say, I'm really passionate about that, because I don't want people to go through that 24 years of a journey to diagnosis that I had. Because yes, it massively impacted my mental health, but also my physical health. I had, by the time they diagnosed me, it was at stage 4 advanced, and I risked losing my bowel, having a stoma, because of the stage it was at. And shouldn't have to get to that. And there's a stat where women that are on even just the wait list to get diagnosed for gynae issues and things, 75% of those said that they felt depressed. So a huge proportion of us just been on that gynae wait list, which is now 630,000 people. It's doubled since 2020, are saying that they feel depressed. So we need that support for them. There's just not enough, even for the physical, but certainly not for the mental health of these women and those that menstruate.
It's massive, isn't it? And I guess the part in, like you said, like you're right, like not people. I'm super confident naturally. I kind of
Yeah.
say now it's one of my superpowers. Like, I just am because I'm very clear to people that it's. I remember working with people years ago and leading teams and stuff like. I used to say, "Oh, just do it. I believe in you," but that's not enough for that person. I needed to
Yeah.
understand more than that and really help them go with them and take the steps. And and inspire them to do that, but feel that there's a safety and people with them. And that's exactly what this is with you. Whereas what I've noticed is by doing a part like you said about like, I want to make that change and I'm going to do that. The same as I was like, actually, yes, I'm an expert to a degree, the doctor, but there's something not right here. I'm going to do it. There is
Yeah.
a part of saying no to certain things of I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to have these symptoms. There must be changes that can happen that can make me feel better. And a kind of sentiment in here, and said in an empathetic way, but like really own that and say like no to certain things. In that, go and spend time, meet people, find out more, be curious. Like I said, start to research, understand more about it. Keep pushing the stuff and the questions, and keep pushing for what you want with stuff because that was giving me is like I wasn't getting placed in doctors. It's like I'm going to go somewhere else, but then I'll go back to them with the stuff I've done as well and say,
Yeah.
actually, we sit with this. But I think there's also an expect. Sometimes we have an expectation with our health more in the UK about, well, I should be getting out. If I pay for this, I should get that. And there's some things where you're just gonna have to accept that it's not that. And if you want some change in your life, to really prioritize that, as we're saying again, it may be you do take a bit of time to slow down on other things to say this has to be a real priority for me. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
where we were. We had so many things happening, spinning with moving, getting married, all these things. I was like, something's got to give a little bit. Our health's a priority. Otherwise, we know what that's going to be, the ripple effect from that. We don't focus on it. And just again, being in a moment to just take one step at a time because changing that could significantly impact so many other things as well.
Totally. And like you say, it impacts your whole life,
Yeah.
everything, you and your partner, you feel it. So there was a report done recently with the Women and Equality Committee, and it found that the reason that women's health is not where it should be is down to partly medical misogyny,
Yeah.
which is shocking. And you said there about like say no, and it is true. Like I have been in consultant appointments, in hospital appointments, and they've told me this is what's happening to you. This is what we're going to do without even asking me how I feel about that, explaining it so I can have informed consent. And I have actually said no
Yeah.
and walked out of there. I've cried, but I have stuck up for myself and said no. And so many people don't say no and they go along with it and they've got that gut feeling maybe something isn't right. And
Mm.
it is having that confidence, whether it be taking somebody else with you to that appointment or going in armed with notes and saying, I know these are my rights.
Um,
But whatever it takes, there are people out there to support you. And it's not having that voice for you. It's about letting you know what your rights, what the facts are, and letting you kind of go, okay, what sits well with me and what do I actually want for my body? What do I want for my health? This is impacting me, but it's also impacting my family, my partner, my fertility, my work. I need to make the right decision, but not based on what somebody is telling me to do. It's what feels right for me to do. So saying no is absolutely a must when you are dealing with anything PCOS, like you are, or for endometriosis, anything. I would say definitely we need to be, we need to have informed consent, and we need to be part of that conversation rather than being spoken at. And there are biases out there, there are inequalities, and the fact that this report found there's medical misogyny is just shocking.
it's massive. I know even it's definitely a different conversation for a different day,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
there is even the fitness stuff of training. And I remember doing in 2018 and I was overweight and I did a fitness transformation. I got down to 8.5 stone and my period stopped at 60 kilos. I know for me, and this is something I've been speaking about as well with going through the PCOS journey, is knowing where I'm at my best and not, and everybody's body's slightly different. And
Yeah.
like, is there a frustration around I mentally don't want to be 11 stone, but my body seems to almost work a bit differently at different weights and things. So essentially what I'm saying is I was putting a huge amount of pressure on my body there.
Hmm.
but that was based on, and it wasn't their fault, but we are in societies as well, or people are doing things where that PT didn't have that expertise or knowledge in women's nutrition or actually how I should be training. And I was being trained to in a, like most males would be. And there is so much science behind even the fact of training and nutrition and everything. It is just not the same at all. And it's all on a male still. And people just like, no, it couldn't
Oh
be.
yeah, most research is done on males, and we're basing what we should do with
Yeah.
a completely different body,
Yeah.
hormones, is what they're saying. So yeah, I agree that it's about what we feel ourselves rather than someone saying, well, you should be this way, you should be doing this. And we do, our self-worth can be influenced by external factors. So if you've got enough people saying, this is what should be, you kind of go, okay, am I trusting my own internal value and expectation and belief on what I should be, what you should be versus what feels right. Like you say that your body works better at a certain way, to a certain place, listen to that.
Mm. What's with all of this, what is the success you want from this when we talk about like success on your terms, and where do you see this going for you?
For me, success has always been around making a difference to people's lives.
Mm.
And that is about creating that real impact on individuals, but society as a whole. So yeah, it is creating that real change in society. It's about taking action, not just words. We've got enough of people talking about things, but what actually has been done to change, like I say, we've got 30 years of people talking, not much, but it's getting more. But we actually need people to start taking action on those words now. So yeah, for me, success is about getting involved in being part of that action, part of the massive change in society. So we change things, but yeah.
That is so important. I mean, change, and a lot of probably what we shared like seems big and can seem very scary and daunting for so many people. And it is again, or you feel that, oh, why can't I be normal? And it's like define normal because there
Yeah,
isn't.
exactly.
But what are some of, also coming to yourself, but what are some of the places where people would start more so they're completely like very anxious about this or scared or nervous or don't know, like feel they haven't got a support mechanism around them? What are some resources or support you would share as the first steps to take?
So on my website, I have a guide, very simple, easy to read guide on endometriosis. So if you suspect you have endometriosis, download, it's free. So download it, have a read through some of the symptoms there. And then there's more, I've got one on, advocacy and things. So there's free resources there you can help. If you need somebody to chat to more in depth to unpack any of that, then yeah, I can do the one-to-one support, have a free 30-minute session to help guide you, signpost you. If you feel you need more to kind of unpick some of the mental health impacts it's having, then I offer that one-to-one support as well, ongoing or even as a one-off. So there is plenty of support out there. There are charities that help as well. But I would say talk to people. Just make the start by having the conversations. Be with your loved ones, be with me, whoever. Just voice it, because we keep so much internally and we're frightened to, what happens if it's not? What happens if I'm making it up? And a lot of us are told, it's all in your head. You're just anxious,
Yeah.
that's part of being a woman, heavy periods or pain. It's just accept it. Don't accept it. You're best having those conversations and finding out it's nothing, if it is nothing, and adjusting your lifestyle accordingly and to see what you can do to help with some of the symptoms. But if it turns out to be a menstrual health condition like endometriosis, PCOS, fibroids, whatever, you need then the support mechanisms in place to help you with that. So yeah, start having the conversations with people that that can support you. If you don't want to do it with your loved ones and people that are close to you, use facilities and people that aren't a non-judgmental, that safe space to open up and are specialist in the area.
That's really powerful, and in my experience going on this as well, that beyond doctor support is somebody who's, is qualified in it, who's been and also had it. That's why she's very passionate around a piece of hairstyle to
Yeah.
through, break it down. She had a very strong personal trainer, health background as well. So that obviously appealed to me because for me, there's a balance and a lifestyle piece of
Yeah.
where my body's being strained and understanding more about myself. But also just a space like you say, like it's sometimes I always think it's like when I've had PTs for years and I watch other people with PTs and the poor PT stands there silent, bless them. And this person's like jabbering away because
Yeah.
I've done it. But
Yeah.
because they're a completely non-judgmental person, often
Yeah.
has no association with your life,
Yeah.
and you just get everything out. That space is beyond what you'll get with someone like in the NHS
Oh,
or
totally different.
just
Yeah.
them at your side in that way,
Yeah.
building a relationship and just getting all the things out and on the table is so important. And most of the time as well, there will probably be a grace that it's not as bad as you think. There are, as you said, we want to know how to manage these things and take the right steps forward. And that's we don't want to waste time. We just want to know what do we need to do. It won't be perfect maybe straight away, but let's get us closer to a solution and managing something or preventing as well. And that those things are so important.
Yeah, I agree. And, it can feel really overwhelming whether you've got the diagnosis or not. I want to say that, there's hope. And
There is.
I live my life and, I've got a career. I've now got 2 kids. I'm happy. I do, have a pain and, but it's knowing that there's hope out there and knowing what to do. You feel then more comfortable and more able to choose what's right for you and live alongside it rather than it define your whole life.
And I think genuinely people admire that actually as well. I remember slightly different, but the way with some business stuff I was doing, and we're both coaching backgrounds,
Yeah.
we know each other, but doing some stuff on how I work as a person, like personality and stuff like that. And I remember going to my boss and just saying, that just doesn't work for me. That's not how you get the best out of me. And it's
Yeah.
the same with this. When I don't think in younger years we know how to get the best out of ourselves or how to stand for things that we believe in or think are right. And going on that part of the personal journey with that is so important as well. Like we said, saying no to things earlier, but just learning about then communicating to others.
Yeah.
I just need this right now. And that's so important. I think a lot of people refrain from doing that, and just having that can really help you.
And I think allyship as well. So this is
Yeah.
a whole part of the awareness and education piece for me is that, yes, you can help the individual that is going through it, but I think it's really important for everybody in their world to also understand and support, so yes, it is on us to ask for help and say, this is what's happening for me. Can I ask this of you? But it's also so for the ones closest to us to go, what can I do? How can I support you? How are you feeling? It comes two ways, because I think so much of the pressure is on the individual that's going through whatever it is they're going through to ask for that help. Sometimes they don't have the energy or to do that. So for other people to step in and go, how are you feeling? Because nobody on my journey ever said to me, there was always like the physical things like surgeries or the IVF, right? We're going to do this to you. You're going to have this. This is the problem. This is how we're going to fix it. But
Yeah.
nobody ever said, like, how are you actually feeling
Yeah.
about all this? How
Yeah.
is your mental health in this? What can I do to ease this for you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that if you have anybody in your life, you're listening to this and either they're diagnosed or not, offer that support. Ask them, how are you? What can I do for you?
Such an important point. Where can people connect with you and find out more about everything you're talking about here?
So I've got my website. I'm on all social media. So the website is pausefully.co.uk and the handle is Pausefully for everything, over on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. Yeah. And I've got all the free resources as well on the website.
Thank you. It's a really, really important conversation. So I really appreciate you sharing
Thank
everything
you.
here.
Thank you for giving me a space to talk.
Yeah, an invitation to do that reach out, even if it feels daunting, you think, oh, what's she going to say? Just take that first step and do it, because you never know. So
Yeah, I will be as helpful as I can. And like I say, there's so much free out there for you. But if you do want to work with me long term, that's an
yeah,
option as well.
thank you.
Thank you.
If this episode gave you something to think about, helped you in any way, or just made you feel seen, do me a favour, hit subscribe, leave a quick review, and maybe share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to dive deeper or need help, reach out. I'd love to hear from you. I appreciate you being here, and I will see you next time.